Are you a HELIVE teacher? A HELIVE teacher is someone who never stops learning.
We know that highly efficacious, efficient, and effective educators expect their students to succeed.
Yes, y'all. Watch out!
HELIVE, Highly Efficacious, Effective, and Efficient Educators, is a series of 22 live lessons that focus on different areas of teacher efficacy, advocacy, and support.
HELIVE teacher brings fun into the classroom.
HELIVE teachers bring excitement to the classroom.
They welcome change into their classroom. They are masters of the subject and the content that they teach. And most importantly, they never stop learning. So again, I ask, are you a HELIVE teacher?
We're excited that you can join us, and stay tuned for our upcoming HELIVE lessons. And we look forward to learning and growing with you. Thank you.
Yeah, come on. I like that, y'all. The H, the E, the H, the H, the E, I. The H, the E, the H, the H, the E, I like that, like that. The H, the E, I, H, I, E, I, H, E, I. Heck yeah. Yes, y'all. Watch out. H-E-Y.
Hello. Hi, everyone. We're so excited to be back again. Hi, I'm Lavetta Levels, and I'm broadcasting live from Dallas, Texas. Good evening. I bring you greetings tonight, and welcome to the HELIVE Summer Learning Series, where our goal is to inform, empower, and encourage educators, families, and all stakeholders in education. Whether it's your first time joining us or if you've ever attended any of our other previous sessions, we want to thank you for your presence and your participation as we all learn and grow together. Where are you watching us from? Hello, Atlanta, Georgia. Hello, Texas. I see you. Ohio, Tennessee, Florida, California. Hello, everyone. We're so excited to have all of you. Please share the video, tag your friends, tag your colleagues, your co-workers. We're so excited about tonight. It's our last session. Oh my goodness. But we're still excited. And Tag Seminar, you're it.
Hey everybody, how's everybody doing tonight? I don't know if y'all saw me put this up, keep this up just a little while longer because I'm from North Carolina. Shout out to Miss Bettina Pope.
Hi, Miss Bettina.
All of you who are from North Carolina, all of you been tuning in. I bring you greetings from College Park, Maryland. And like Mr. Vetter said, this is our last night. We're gonna go out with a bang. It's just a pause in this right here. But thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in. To Dr. Labata, you have been our number one supporter, viewer. Thank you so much. I never met you, but one day I'm going to meet you. So thank you so much to all of you who've shown us love and support. To Isis, hope you're watching. We love you. We miss you.
Hey,
Tag, you're it.
All right. Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Keishla Wiley, and I bring you greetings from Dallas, Texas. Hey, Connie from Dallas. I see you're out there. Hello to everyone. Again, this is our final show. Shout out to Isis, who is not here with us. We love you. You are here in our hearts, and so we do miss you, and we feel your energy. You guys, I have the opportunity to introduce the vessel that God poured this vision into. So you guys, this vision has gone above and beyond what we thought or imagined, and God has just shown out. So without further ado, you all, I want to welcome the First Lady of He Live back to the stage, Dr.
Stop it. Good evening. I am so excited to be here. This is definitely a sweet, sad moment, right? Because we're closing out the summer learning series. So it was for the summer. You got 26 live lessons this summer.
Yes.
Fire, knowledge, information. And tonight we're going out with a bang. We're going out with some calls to action. We're going out with charges. We're going out to go into our communities and make a difference for education advocacy. Yes. And to do that, we are so pleased to have the National President and CEO of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, Ms. Beverly E. Smith, Patricia Lattimore, the CEO of DREF, and Ms. Rhonda Briggins, the National Co-Chair of Social Action for Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Listen, it doesn't get any better, okay? So, ears open, get some paper, get some pencil, open your hearts, be receptive to what you hear tonight, and make a decision as to what it is you will do when you go off of this particular live on tonight. So before we get started bringing up the CEO of DREF, I want to just share a video of what DREF is and what DREF does. And she's going to come in and talk a little bit more. And then we're going to just move through this program and have a very robust and great conversation with all of our wonderful panelists.
DREF President Carolyn E. Lewis, the Board of Directors, and the staff of the Delta Research and Educational Foundation extend well wishes and appreciation to you, our key constituents and supporters. Through these tumultuous times, DREF is standing firm, creating possibilities, improving lives, as it upholds the mission of philanthropy, research, and scholarly endeavors. We are proud to assist DST chapters with its fundraising efforts through the DREF Charitable Engagement Service. Managing scholarship funds and donations for charitable programming are core areas of our service. DREF also supports chapters through its annual Community Empowerment Grant-Making Program. The Center for Research in African American Women and the Sister Scholars Advisory Council continues to present research and educational endeavors. Get your copy of the latest Phyllis Journal. Now more than ever, communities must raise awareness to prevent gun violence. A DREF research project resulted in a toolkit entitled Raising Our Voice, a Community Guide to Address Gun Violence. This year, the 2020 election was addressed at the annual Stephanie Tubbs Jones Social Justice Forum held during Delta Days in the nation's capital. DREF is creating a meaningful path to health and wellness as a national community engagement partner of the National Institutes of Health All of Us research program. Since 2017, the DREF Research Matters for All of Us initiative, in collaboration with DST Sorority and NCNW, has conducted outreach and awareness in African American communities to promote the importance of biomedical research. DREF is encouraging African Americans to enroll in the NIH research database and become 1 in a million. DREF Research Matters continues to conduct virtual outreach activities and social media initiatives. Visit www.joinallofus.org/DREF to learn how you can help shape the future of health. The Delta Teacher Efficacy Campaign, DTEC, is conducting the TAG initiative, Teachers Advocating to Lead Great Change. The DTEC-TAG program trains educators on achieving equity in their educational systems using a variety of digital events. Throughout the summer, DTEC-TAG is offering an online HE live educational learning series to educate and empower students, teachers, parents, and all stakeholders. Text Join TAG to 51555 to connect. Join DREF in standing firm, creating possibilities, improving lives. There are many ways to support your foundation. Your charitable donation is an investment in the limitless potential of African American women and their families. We thank you. DREF.
Thank you for paying attention to that particular video that tells you more what DREF is and what DREF does. So now we want to invite Patricia Lattimore on so that she can give you a little bit more as to what DREF is and what DREF does.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, thank you. More. I am delighted to join you hardworking women and sorors for the culminating session of the He Live Summer Learning Series. The Delta Research and Educational Foundation, as most of you know, was founded by Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated in 1967 as a 501c3 organization. DREF was established as a public charity supporting scholastic achievement, scholarship programs, public service programs, and research initiatives focused upon African American women, their families, and their communities. DREF works to carry out this mission through fund development, grant making and program partnerships, charitable giving services for local Delta chapters, as well as Delta Sigma Theta's Disaster Relief Fund, charitable giving services for locals, community-based project support, as well as research and public dialogue on socioeconomic policy issues. Our current major grantors include the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which has underwritten DTEC-TAG for the last 4 years, and now the He Live series for this pandemic pivot summer. Additionally, the National Institutes of Health has funded DREF for a 4th year of community outreach and engagement to the African American community about the benefits and necessity of our inclusion in clinical health trials for the benefit of health for ourselves, our families, and our communities, now and into the future. The Delta Research and Educational Foundation serves over 200 clients. We are the stewardship of their funds from grants, contracts, and donations. We have a small staff of 10 employees in the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority headquarters building in the DuPont Circle area of Washington, D.C. Our annual revenue averages $2.5 million, and we do the best we can with what we have to parlay the resources that become available to Delta Sigma Theta and other community-based organizations to do the most with what we have in the communities we serve. I welcome you to our final session of He Live.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lattimore. We appreciate you setting that tone for what DREF is and what DREF has done. And now we want to bring in the national president and CEO of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, because that is one of the partners of the DTEC-TAG work. And really, it has been such a blessing to have this partnership, to have the reach that we've actually been able to fulfill and sustain. So now we want to welcome on, y'all help me welcome our national president.
Hey. How are you this evening?
Wonderful.
Good. I am so happy to be here. You know, the partnership we have with DREF and the partner we have with DTEC has been incredible in terms of what you all are doing and what it means to us and what it means to everyone. Education is a foundational key. I think it was George Washington Carver that said education is the key to freedom, which is the tie and the link between education and social action. Because without that and without understanding education, we would be lost and knowing the things that we know. You know what's critical, though, and I have a fondness for teachers. My son's a teacher. My daughter's a psychologist, so I feel she does that. Part of my career has been in education. I've gone from nonprofits to corporate America to education and then back to education. The last 8 years of my career before I retired a couple years ago really was running adult education for the state of Georgia and trying to make sure that we train and lift up the 1,200 teachers that I had that I was responsible for, and making sure that teachers feel good about what they're doing. It's a difficult climate teachers teach in these days, and making sure that they are not only confident, but they can make sure that those they teach are confident is tough. I know firsthand from trying to create teacher tools that we had to do. I had a whole department that did nothing but try to come up with creative tools and ways for teacher to actually reach those that they were teaching. And those of you in education understand what I'm talking about. This program and what it does in terms of strengthening our teachers and then strengthening those students, the long-term effects of what you're doing, I think is going to be hard for even you to imagine today. But the impact is incredible. You know, I tried to think about the times that I had. I also ran an adult program, oh gosh, probably 100 years ago, at least 45 years ago. And knowing what those children went through and how difficult it was to try and make sure we had a reach. That's the kind of thing that we can see in the program we have with DTEC, and making sure that we are strong. We welcome and have truly enjoyed this partnership. We know it's been effective and the reach has been incredible in the past few years that you're doing this program. I cannot thank you enough. And I know that we all thank you and are glad you have listeners, but thank you for all you've done. I know this won't end right now. It'll continue on.
Yeah.
Woo, that's a prophecy. We're going to catch that prophecy.
There you go. Yeah. All right.
So we thank you so much for taking time after such a busy summer to come and join us for this discussion. It means the world to each of us, and we're greatly appreciative. And I want to now bring in Miss Rhonda Briggins, who brings us. Welcome, Sarah Briggins. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much. I'm so happy to be a part of this last series of He Live summer series, and thank everyone for inviting me to participate. As we look at the pandemic and everything that we're going through, this is the time to really look at education and advocacy in action, right? With everything we're now thrown into, the digital divide, the curriculum, all of the pressure they're putting on our teachers, parent involvement. How do you deal with students with disabilities, college tuition, student loans, and then just children having the ability to socialize? And so all of those things are things that we're going to talk about tonight, because these are new policies that we probably need to look at and address. And then we need to also examine old policies that we need to fight for and change. So thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to the dialogue and the conversation.
All right.
Yes. Awesome. We thank you. We're going to move right into the discussion. It's going to be more of a panel discussion. And please, if you have any questions, put them in the chat, write them down. We will still have our traditional BYOV, which is bring your own voice. And we definitely want you to bring that to the discussion. So get your questions ready for us. So as we start, I really want to just pose a question to help the audience and viewers to understand the education journey of each of you. So, you know, education is not the same. That's a given. It's not the same for parents, students, teachers, or leaders. Can you share one or two of the most impactful experiences on your educational journey? Whoever wants to go first.
Okay.
One.
I'll jump in. I'm waiting on Madam President.
Are we deferring to Madam President, Rhonda?
I'm waiting for you. You don't want to speak for the president. You're like, So I'm going to jump on in here. I had an opportunity to go to, I guess what you would call, we were one of the first groups after integration where we were bused on the other side of town. And I guess that was the first time you really got to see this whole new world of these white, rich, influential children. And I just remember one day I was sitting there when my dad took me to school, and we overheard an argument and a fight between one of my classmates and their mom, and the girl cursed her mom out. And my dad looked and he said, "What?" And so I really began to just see the differences of that educational process for myself. Really began to see that this new world was open up, and then how you balance those worlds between where I lived and then now where I was going to school. And from that point on, I began to see the competition as an African-American student in those settings. How we had to behave differently, the things that we could not do that they did, understanding that we always had to show up and be excellent. We always had to compete a little differently. But we also, because we were there, we also understood that we had an advantage, and we needed to go back to our communities and help those that were, I guess, still in our old school systems. And so how do you merge all of that? And you still see that divide now, right? You're seeing it in a different way. Children are not being bused to other sides of town, but even in this pandemic, we're seeing that the difference of the have and the have-nots. We're seeing the difference of the different cultures that children are being faced with all of the civil unrest. You know, our children are trying to now figure out how do they deal with their color and their Blackness in this place. And so all of this are things that we're having the opportunity to right some of these wrongs, do some adjustments, but it's all a part of this educational process that we will continue as African Americans have to always make sure we're doing and understanding our history, our past, and then where we merge that to our future.
Awesome. Good. Thank you for sharing that story. That's real. That's a real experience. Who else? Anybody else want to share a story?
I think my eye opener was I was one of those kids that went to bed on Friday night in '54 and woke up on Monday and had to get on a bus to go to another school because I had to leave my neighborhood in mid DC to go to Brooklyn, far northeast, where I live now, but where I had never traversed to before. And it was the first time I had ever been called the N-word. It was the first time I ever experienced any of that. But my mother, who was somewhat of a revolutionary in her own right, helped me navigate that. And those of you who know me have heard about Miss Eunice. She didn't have any problem taking off from her maid job and coming to school in her maid uniform, much to my chagrin, to straighten the good white people out. And she did that for me. Fast forward to 2000, at the end of the Clinton administration, when I retired, my first job was to go help Dr. Paul Vance restructure DC public school system. And I was charged with trying to merge a predominantly Black and a predominantly white school on Capitol Hill. And the attitudes that I encountered just trying to do basic realignment rules, and the attitudes were the same that I encountered in 1954. And that was my eye opener, that we had not come that far from 54 to 2000. And I thought I was only going to be there to help him 6 months. I stayed 26 months, working 24/7, but I just couldn't walk away because that's what he thought he needed to do. And I said, I got to stay to help him get this done, because they were determined they were not going to merge our children into the top of the line system that existed on Capitol Hill. And we were able to get it done and hire one of our sorors to be the principal of that new school on Capitol Hill.
All right. That's all right.
And I'm not an educator, but that was my immersion in the unfairness and the inequities in the education system that I thought had already been washed away.
Well, I can share. I know what Pat's talking about in terms of integration and moving into schools. My family integrated the school, the neighborhood, actually the cemetery that my dad is buried in. We went through a lot with that, and the stories are endless. But, what I want to focus on is the impact that what you do has on your children. I can remember my son, Brian, I mentioned he's a teacher, but when he was in high school, I think it was between his junior and senior year, we went to parent-teacher night. Now, I have to admit, the school was maybe 2,000 students. There were 10 Black students there. So there were not many of them. So we go to parent-teacher night. We always told the teachers, tell us no if anything's wrong. So the head of the English department came over and said, just want you to know, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, let Brian know that the teachers read the reading list that he left for them for the summer. I said, now, Brian was a all-star football player, but never one that I thought was known to be a scholar. So I said, my son gave the English department a reading list for school. She said, yes. I said, how did that happen? She said, well, he was in his 18th century history class, English class, and asked the teacher, raise his hand and ask her who were the Black authors in the 18th century. The foolish teacher made the mistake of saying there were none.
Oh, Jesus.
Also, unbeknownst to us, Brian did a research project and went to the head of the department, the English department, and handed her a list explaining that there was clearly a problem with the teachers in the school. So he gave them a reading list of Black history classes to read during the summer and some books about African Americans and literature. So she wanted him to know that they were better educated and that they had, in fact, read the reading list and would do a much better job. But, Brian didn't leave it at that. So about 3 months later, I get a call from the school again, the principal, who we knew very well, because Mr. Rossi, still see him today. Mr. Rossi said, nothing's wrong. We always started that way because they knew we would jump. But we wanted you to know that Brian is teaching a Black history class in the cafeteria at lunchtime. I said, every day? She said, yeah.
I love it.
I said, what? How did that happen, Mr. Rossi? He said, well, he really was concerned about what the teachers were doing. And so he decided to teach Black history in the cafeteria at lunchtime. He's growing quite a crowd. He now has 2 or 3 tables. So we've decided to let him finish for the rest of the semester until he gets his course done for the students and the teachers in the school. And, Brian's a teacher to this day. But, to end that story, before the year was out, the Cobb County school system had hired a diversity inclusion officer because Brian had rallied parents and students
absolutely
to make sure that county changed what it was doing. And that woman who was hired as the diversity counselor at the school became a principal in the school system and hired Brian to teach on her staff. So, I think what that says, what you do with your children, and the comment says our children are watching. They are, because we made sure that there's Black history books all over this house. Rhonda can attest to that for you. We make time to do that. But your voice and what you do as a parent and an educator, because you are an educator with your children. The impact that you can have and the impact those children can have an impact that you won't even realize is happening. And so when you talk about teacher efficacy and the kinds of things that we can do as parent teachers, if you will, now unfortunately that term means something different in the COVID environment, but as parent teachers, making sure that they understand and are so proud of who they are and can stand confidently up and speak to who they are, I think is important. That's a story that we have never, ever forgotten. We still see that principal to this day who always asks, how is Brian doing?
I love it.
That's awesome. I love the advocacy that came from each of the stories you just shared. Like, I don't know if y'all picked up that thread, but it was just natural. Each one of you shared that advocacy point and how somebody, if it's you and your spouse, a parent, whomever, served as an advocate. And I love how Sarah Smith brought out that parent piece, because that has been a missing component for years. And I think we're in a space right now where we have to call that thing out. And so I love how your story set it up to show parents how showing their children how to be advocates by modeling and being that gives them that confidence to be an advocate wherever they put their feet, wherever they grace people with their presence. So that was powerful. Really appreciate that. Was personal insight. Really appreciate that. Now, we hear that education is a civil right. We see that written in many different places, right? People say it, but what does that mean to you? Like, what are your thoughts on that statement? Education is a civil right.
You know, I looked at that and I thought about it, and everybody has a right to an education, and sometimes it's not in the school system, but it is a civil right because it makes a difference in terms of what we do with social action. It really is a key to open a door, and education is something that you cannot be denied. It is God made us with minds that have to be educated. We have a taste for and an addiction in terms of education. People want to know things. God made us a curious piece of beings. And if we are in fact curious beings, that means that is a God-given right for us to learn, because he made us in the image to be able to do that and to want to do it.
I agree. We have a right to learn, right? And so in having that right to learn, I think we have to, and you've seen that since slavery. That was the first thing the masters did during slavery.
Do not read.
Hinder, the slaves from an education. Because just like you just said, Sora Smith, everyone has a desire to learn. Everyone has a desire to explore things beyond themselves. Yes. And so they understood very early to deny us an education process also controlled us. And they could control us that way through our education. And you see how we have fought for education and continue to fight for education throughout history. As a matter of fact, if you look at the inception of Delta Sigma Theta, it came out of collegiate women. And it was that word collegiate. Absolutely. That was the interest of those women suffragists at that time that encouraged those young people to do something different, right? Because they knew at that particular time that Black women in college meant something, because you didn't have that many white women in college at the time. And so that was a power and a separator for us. And then in addition to that, they were brilliant Black women. When you look at their ability to write, their ability to communicate, they were brilliant. And so they used that as an advocacy tool and began to spread that around the country through chapters. And now you see it 107 years later, and look at all of us. So education has been the center of our learning in our community and our freedom in this country.
And I think Delta Sigma Theta was very instrumental in pushing forward the concept that a fully rounded education was critical and the key to the success for future generations.
Yes.
Delta pushed early on that it's not just matriculating through a scripted curriculum that may not teach needed life and adaptive skills. We have been pushing through our gyms and other programs that you need to focus on educating the whole person, so that our next generation has the basic life skills to navigate and adapt in now an even more demanding and unrelenting world environment. We need the cognitive and intellectual capacity to address the everyday stresses that are building daily,
right,
and the challenges that we're all confronted with. And we need the discernment how to safely navigate that terrain. And that's becoming even more important every day. Be back to the issue of what do you tell your Black child? And that's got to be a piece of the overall education as we send our children forth into this very hostile world.
Yes.
Listen, this is so good. This conversation is so good. But you said something, our president, as well as Rhonda, and as well as Sarah Pat, y'all all said the same thing, but you said that God gave us minds to be educated. That was powerful and prolific to me. Because it made me stop and check myself for a minute. I was like, I never thought about it that way. But it also made me think in regards to education being a civil right, we have these minds to be educated. Part of the education advocacy is for that whole child that Sarah Pat just talked about. Because a right to be educated means I got the right to be educated the way I know how to learn, the way I was wired brain myself. Yeah. If I'm visual, if I'm auditory, if I'm kinesthetic, that's my right. And as an educator, I would expect, even as a child or even an adult, that someone who was charged with educating me will want to take the time to learn who
And
I
deal
am
with that.
and deal with it so that they could reach me and give me my right to learn. So that is just very powerful. And I hope that everybody here heard that. And I hope as an educator, as a parent, as a community member, that you take that and realize every time you deal with anyone in any situation, when it comes to educate someone, that they got that right. And if you are called to do it, you have the right to educate them the way they need to be educated. So that right there just did something to my whole soul. So thank you so much for bringing that out. That was good.
There we go.
Okay, so let's move into a little bit of education policy. How has educational policy influenced the need to amplify advocacy in our communities right now in this season?
So when you talk about education policies and the needs to amplify it, I mean, that's everything that's going on in this pandemic. I mean, that is truly all of the policies of how do you restart school, the policies of how you keep children safe, the policies of how you feed babies during this time. I mean, there are so many issues that have come up during this pandemic, the policies of the inefficiencies of our systems. You know, we just have a lot of stuff that we're now being faced with. Everybody have all the memes about 2020, you know, 2020, please go. Because 2020 has just taken the Band-Aid and ripped it off. The digital divide, who has Wi-Fi and access to Wi-Fi, the span of Wi-Fi. I mean, there's so many things. And even you all as teachers, the ability of who's computer literate, right? You're being thrown into this system, and now they're putting all this pressure on you, and you're like, I didn't get a degree in computer science, you know. And so all of these things, parent involvement. I have a 13-year-old. I am not a teacher, my Lord. I am not a teacher. But when you talk about parent involvement, he's already missed 2 classes. I was sitting right here with him. We don't know how it happened. So I'm like, what happened? He was like, I don't know. I said, I don't know. So when you talk about parent involvement, and I'm constantly checking on him and with him. And so if I'm here doing that, and so for parents that has already been an issue and a problem, they do have to go to work and all of that. How do you stay on top of these kids who are now being responsible for their own educations? And so I just think we have a lot of issues, and we now have new policies, and you all as teachers need to see this as an opportunity of policies. So if we're going to correct all of this, if we're going to get it right, we need to start figuring out what policies do we need to introduce. How do we now have an opportunity to change the system? Stuff that you all been fussing about for years. This is our chance. This is our chance to go in and look at curriculum. We can write. This is the time in this country to right a lot of wrongs. The whole tearing down institutions, to me, and adjusting history, it is to right wrongs. And so let's figure out what are those wrongs and identify them, and let's get them right.
Let me answer that. I'm going to do a commercial for the census. I know Sarah Briggins will be happy about that. So you know what? If we don't, a lot of this policy relates to money and funding.
Absolutely.
But if we don't participate in the census, we ain't going to get none of that money, because we actually will not exist. We have to make sure if the school systems need to be increased, if bandwidth needs to be improved. I found out by listening to some things that bandwidth and how the FCC decides on whether or not there's enough bandwidth is based on the census.
Absolutely.
Making sure there's money in school bonds for schools based on the census. Making sure that there are things there in terms of our health education, and to make sure there is policy there based on the census. We must make sure that as many of us as possible, make sure that we take care of putting our names on that line for the census. They have to know where we are, because that's where the money goes. Policy, money, education, health, welfare, all those things, and all the places those dollars go is policy dependent on what we put on that census in terms of where people are located. And so we have got to do, Sarah Briggins is right. Rhonda's right about all the things that she indicated in terms of where we are. We have got to make sure that we educate, I saw that on screen there, on the census, so that we can do the right thing to make sure we are counted and that we get the money that our communities deserve to have.
And once we respond to the census, we need to do what Deltas do all the time. We need to show up.
There you go.
When the money gets to the community, it doesn't always get to us.
That's
unless we're at the table when the dollars are divided up. And we need to be there to say, when it comes in, where's it going? And where's my fair share? If 30% of the people live with me, I want 30% of the money on my side of town. We need to be there to make sure that the pie gets divided appropriately, or it may all go to the other side of town.
That's right. And you know what? If we don't bring that folding chair that Shirley Chisholm talks about,
absolutely.
Okay, we got your friend Shirley. We're gonna be in trouble because she said if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a folding chair.
Bring your folding chair.
Politics are local. Don't worry about running for high office. Run for office in your community. So you're sitting at the table when those dollars are given out.
That's it.
That's it. And listen, that was a call in action in itself.
There you go.
The response to that question about civil rights and where we ended up and what we need to do for policy, that's a call to action. We heard a lot. And all of you right now can hit share and have you filled out your census, period. That's a call to action. Put it out there to everybody, family, friends, mom, dad, uncles, cousins. We have to open our mouths and use the power in our voice.
There you go.
There you go. To educate about the census. And I love, I'm sorry, President, how you brought in and talked about everything that's affected by the census, be it if we do it or don't, right? There's consequences for not doing it.
Absolutely.
We're living in some of those consequences right now.
Oh, yeah.
And these are our tax dollars that will never come back to us if we don't sign up for the census.
That's right.
That's right.
All right. So bottom line here, do your census. Tell somebody about the census. Post about the census every day. Put it in your time or make an alarm to remind somebody about the census. That's a call to action, educators. That's a call to action, parents. Right. That's a call to action, stakeholders. If we don't do it, we're hurting ourselves. We're shooting out our big toe. So that was really good. So I want to just move to social action a little bit more. You know, DST is known for the social action that comes forth from this organization. It's phenomenal. It is powerful. It is strategic. It's intentional. So let's talk about that for a minute. DST is rooted in social action. From your lens, describe the intersection of social action and education. And I know we've touched on this, but we can go a little deeper here.
Let's see. I'm going to let the social action chair talk.
Look, you are part of the team, Sora Smith, so you can everywhere talking about everything. But when you talk about social action and education, again, it's about the policy. You know, social action is really about policies and advocacy in your community. So it is how we show up for our children. It is how we demand education for all children. We need to really understand and believe down deep in our souls that all children can learn. All children deserve to have an education. We need to make sure we have policies in place that you're not tracking children to technical, you know, somewhere technical instead of academic. All of those things are policies and things that we have to constantly advocate for our children. We need to make sure when you look at education and advocacy that you're running for elected office. I mean, Sora Smith just said it a few minutes ago. If we have to be at the table when we talk about social action and education, we have to have decision makers that are making the right decisions on behalf of our community and our children. And we cannot apologize for being at the table, fighting for Black children. So many times we have people at the table and they are afraid to fight for our children. And we are here and in these places, and God put you in those places so that you can have a voice for those children. And so I just encourage teachers, you know, that it's okay for you to fight for Black children. It's okay for you to fight for Black children and show up for Black children. And we all have to love them through. We were talking when we were doing this prep for this webinar yesterday. One of the things that we talked about, if you all think about our community right now, we are 5 or 6 generation of drugs and the crack epidemic. And when you really look at where we are, we now more than ever have to become advocates on behalf of those children, because we have generational folks that need us. We have generation of folks that have been voiceless. We have generation of folks that will be tracked to prison. We have generation of folks that will not have an ability to move from one class to the next. And so this whole digital divide that we talk about, there is also a wealth divide. And so we need to make sure that education is the only thing that we have to help close that gap. So when you talk about advocacy, when you talk about the vote, when you talk about all of those things, they cross at this place of our power, our voice, our influence, and everything that we need to do for the next generation. And so we need to be the advocates, and we need to see ourselves as advocates for our children. So one thing that I encourage you all to do is another call to action. Every day you show up, I need for you to try to figure out what is your role that day to move the needle a little further down the road. Because what we don't want to do is move it back. And this administration and everything that we have seen over the last couple of years around policy, we're going backwards instead of forward. But we all could help to advance the cause, the needle, and everything that we need for our children. So that is my call to action for this segment right here. We'll talk about some more.
You know, I think about how we are underestimated in terms of who we are, particularly Black women, when it comes to education. And credibility in the communities where we need credibility requires us to be better than the other. I know this sounds, we're always saying, we have to be twice as good as anybody else to be at the table. My daughter once wanted to, she really felt that their school she's a psychologist, it needed a psychologist, it needed that department. And, she'd been complaining about, she said, they need to have this in their school. And I said, well, what you need to do is, if you think you've got that skill set, then you write the job description for what the school needs. Go to the school and tell them you need a department that takes care of children in this way and focuses on minorities. And oh, by the way, here's my credential. I think I'm the one that can run that department for you. Well, they created it in the school and she got that job, but it's how we are underestimated. And I tell young ladies, actually all women all the time, use the fact that they underestimate you as an educated woman. Get your seat at the table. This is so sad to say, but sometimes the least thing we can do, because they underestimate us, they think we're absolutely phenomenal. Well, it's just an everyday thing for us because we live with that stuff every day.
That's right.
We come up with an idea and they say, this is wonderful. We can do this. We can add this to our policy statement. You're going, that's just common sense. In our mind, it is. In their mind, it's we must be the best because they don't know us. They don't know who we are. They don't know how educated we are. Use the fact that we are underestimated to get yourself involved in social action and on the seat at the table in your community. They won't know what hit them until you're there and it's too late to get rid of you. That's what you have to do. That to me is another way we intersect. Let's use the educated power that we have and put ourselves in a seat at that table. Or at a seat in a community, or get involved in the school system, or get involved in social action in another way, without them because they don't understand or realize the important significance of who we are, because they underestimate that. Use that power of being underestimated to put you the places you need to be.
That is wisdom times 1,000. Use that power of them not underestimating you. Like, that is so good because that's the truth. Like, everything you said is real. It is. And yeah, we have to use that power, and we don't have to go at it really strong and wrong. We got to use wisdom. We got to be kind. We got to be loving. That's right. But we'll show up with that boldness, with that confidence, and pull that folded chair up and say, hey, I'm here. And as we answer questions, like you said, they'd be like, oh, that was wonderful. I love how you said that. Because for us, we think we know. We are powerful. We are powerful people.
We are. Let me tell you a story. I was at the table doing something. We were trying to change some policies we had in the company I worked for. It was me, most of the white guys in the room, some union people. Every time I said something, they didn't pay attention to me. But the union leader sitting next to me, everything he said was golden. Okay.
Right.
So I started passing him notes, and I said to him, look, they're not going to pay attention to me because I'm me. Look at me. but they're going to pay attention to you. So what I'm going to do is help you out. I'm going to pass you, here's some things I think you should say in the direction that we want to go. We on the same page? Because we were. He said, yeah. I said, okay, it doesn't have to be me that shares it. It could be you. So you share it. They bought every idea he had because they didn't know where it came from. That's okay, because it's not about us as individuals. It is about what we can do as a community. And we can partner with the most unlikely partner and make a difference in social action if we're willing to open up our worlds and our eyes to those who are with us and supporting us.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Sarah Briggins, anything else from you?
Well, Sarah Smith hits on everything all the time, but she's absolutely right. And when I was a lobbyist for 15 years, and many times I was the only little black girl in the room with a whole bunch of white men. and sometimes politics make strange bedfellows. I mean, that's what people always say, right? True. And so you have to understand, in this space of policy and advocacy, you got to find common ways to find those common goals with people and begin to talk their language and transform yourself beyond our culture, our communities, and figure out ways how you can connect so that you can advocate and get to the change that you need in the communities. And I always tell folks too, sometimes going through the front door might not always be the path. You might have to climb through the window. But the point is, you need to get inside. And so we need to figure out ways to get inside of all of these systems of government. We need to get inside of the school in a different way if we're going to advocate on behalf of our children and begin to make sure that they have the future that folks fought with us. I was thinking, many of us have stories of when we wanted to be a Delta when we were little girls. And it was because some teacher was a Delta at some point of all of our lives. And we looked up to her. She was powerful. We understood what that sisterhood mean. She taught us about service. She taught about sisterhood. And so every story, when you first go to Rush and all of that, everybody, why do you want to be a Delta? Well, my third grade teacher. And so the power that teachers have over students is absolutely amazing. And when you see all of the celebrities, most of the time it's the teacher who they go back and thank. It's the teacher who they go and buy a house for, a car for. So I just want you all to know you all have great power. You have great influence, and we need to use your power so that we can make a better world for our babies.
Yes, I love how you say you got great power and great influence. And I just want to center for educators too, because I was an educator for 17 years in the classroom, middle school science. And I just want to say to educators, in this journey to becoming the best advocate you can be for education for children, please know that it's not easy, that you're going to run up on some things that will almost knock you down and take the wind out of you. But I want to encourage you. We want to encourage you on tonight to keep pressing, keep smiling. Don't take things personal. Don't, get all into yourself and get egotistical. Listen, this is greater. Our president said, it doesn't matter who say it as long as we get the change done for the community. Right. And I think if we adopt that mindset, right, that we can do a whole lot more together in unity, being uncomfortable, because you will be uncomfortable, educators, parents, and everyone else who's going to advocate right now in this moment. We got to get to this because we ain't got much time. We got a window to make some change. And I think this is an opportune and divine time for things to happen. So I'll get off my soapbox and we're going to move on. I do want us to talk a little bit about those call to actions. We said a lot, but I want us to bring in that voting, right? And how that ties to that call to action and how that is necessary for where we're going, especially for education. Some of those we've done.
I'll let her in. November is critical for us, and you hear so many people say vote or die, but people are dying. If you look at the pandemic numbers, they're continuing to go up, and they're not decreasing; they're increasing. I have a good girlfriend. I just glanced down at my phone, who's in the hospital right now. And they're asking all of us to fast for her because she's been in the hospital now for 2 weeks with COVID-19. And so this is real. And many of those folks could still be here. if we were under a different type of leadership in this country. And so we must vote. And we need to understand how critical our voting is. We need to register people to vote. Although it's COVID-19, there's still a whole bunch of stuff you could do to get engaged around the election process. I mean, you can go on the corners and wave signs to remind people of the date that you could vote. You could get on the phone. We all are on phones anyway, talking to everyone. Call everyone in your family and make sure that they've registered to vote. They understand all of the dates. If they're going to do absentee ballot, mail-in voting, early voting, that they know all of the information that's required for them. They need to make an election day plan or a voting plan for themselves. Figure it all out in advance. Make sure, number one, that you're still on the rolls, because they're purging rolls all over this country. They're doing everything they can to hinder our vote, to suppress the vote. So voter suppression is real in this country. We had the other night, Delta had our election protection webinar. We had almost over 1,500 folks on that call, because folks understand that election protection is serious, and we're going to have to fight to the end. We're going to have to make sure we have poll workers, poll monitors, all of our attorneys in place to make sure that we have people to resolve issues at the poll. And what I beg of every and each one of you, if you get in line and decide to go on election day or even go to early voting and you're standing in line, do not get out of line. If we need to bring you some food, if we need to bring you water, a chair, whatever you need. We talked about the seniors. Sora Smith sent me an email from one of our Delta deals the other day saying, can we have surrogates to stand in line for us? And we said, yes. So call somebody up and say, baby, I can't go and stand in line all day. Can you stand in line long enough to get to the door and give me a few minutes where I can make it inside? And those are the things that we need to do for one another during this process. But we have to make sure that we are voting come November the 3rd.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. In terms of the call to action, I think those two things we talked about, the census and voting, are critical in terms of who we are and what we do. The other issue that comes up in this racism that's going on and the senseless shooting just the other day, which I will never in life understand. I talked to I was online with Leadership Delta on Saturday, which is our young collegiate sorors who are our top sorors. And a question they asked was an interesting question. How do you get your friends who are of a different color? How do I broach the subject with them and start the conversation so that they feel more comfortable with the conversation? And I said, well, that's an interesting question, because people are, you're afraid you're going to offend the other side. Everybody's afraid they're going to offend themselves. You have the extreme that we see all the time, but for people who actually do want the conversation, they're not sure how to start the conversation because they don't want to be offensive to anybody in terms of starting it. I said, well, sometimes you have to start it on, you can't start off by saying some of my best friends are black or white, that's not going to work. But you can talk about, an issue that's happening in the community and just generally say, the things that are going on with racism and the issues that we're having are just making me feel uncomfortable. And you're a friend of mine of another color. I don't know how do you think I should ask people about that? I mean, ask the question to the person who know that they know you, they want to ask the question of you. So just go ahead and bring it up. Somebody that you're a friend of. That you can feel like it's comfortable. They want to ask you about it, but they don't want to. Or you bring up the subject, an unrelated subject, or they say something they think is inappropriate and they're not sure. How you react to people makes all the difference in the world in terms of whether or not you'll be able to have a relationship with that person or if they can have a relationship with anybody else of color. Mm-hmm. Because the way you react to situations are going to be the way that person will now feel that everybody who's in the community will react to that situation. So your personal ownership of your reactions matters in terms of how you respond to someone. They may have said the thing that you think is the stupidest thing in the world. I mean, no doubt, but you can't tell them that. But what you do have to say is, well, I know what you're trying to say. Understanding from whence somebody is coming when you react to other people matters more long-term than you think because of the effect it will have on someone else. And that reaction that you have then multiplies in terms of their reaction to another, or the way they said, I brought that up with Rhonda. And Rhonda said, what are you talking about? Or that's no way to feel. So especially in tense times when there are tense subjects to talk about, finding ways to actually engage in conversation is important. Reacting, understanding that the reaction you give is going to make a difference in somebody for a very long period of time is something that you have to own. You cannot, I used to tell employees all the time, you can't walk around with a chip on your shoulder. Every time somebody says something to you, you can't yell racism. It may have been, but you can't take it that way because you've ended whatever difference you might have made with somebody, because not everything is racist. Maybe you really were bad at what you did. Do you ever think of that? I will be. So Briggins and Lattimore can tell you, I don't have a problem being straightforward with people. Well, you did screw it up. So, that was an honest reaction. It wasn't because you're Black. Come on, own up to it. So I think how we handle ourselves individually in this environment, even in that voting line, you could possibly change the way somebody's vote by how you handle the 2-3 hours you're standing next to people in line. Because people sometimes don't decide until they get in there. Own that. Understand that if I see people, and this is awful, when I see some folks today and they smile and say, how you doing? I'm saying, are they doing that because I'm Black and they're scared not to do anything else? That runs through your head.
It does.
Because it does.
It does.
But how you react in that line could impact that election.
That's right.
I think in addition to the voting, in addition to the census, your reactions with other people who are not like you can make a difference in a time when they're trying to decide what to do.
That's good right there. That's good.
Like that.
That is really good. There's another wisdom nugget. Y'all write that one down. So we're going to start Lattimore. We're sort of closing out, and right now we're talking about just that call to action, that advocacy and action piece of it, like the what you can do. We've talked so much about pain points and problems over the years and what the issues are, what the data says. We're at a place now where it has to be solution-based. We got to be the answer to everything we know to be. So we were closing out on what that could be. And Sarah Briggins actually shared some really good stuff, as well as Sarah President. And she was talking about how you got a code switch. She didn't say that word, but that's what she said. She said, before you go in there, you got to go in there the right way. You don't go in there, because I was born and raised in the hood. I'm just being very honest. But I can't go up into places like that. I had to learn how to code switch and be that person that can walk into these buildings and get at these tables and run for elections. Like, you have to be able to get into these spaces and navigate. You have to
be able to morph into wherever the situation brings you.
So I say that's the call to action too, especially for educators, because education is a hard job. It's difficult. And in this season, it's all the more difficult. But I say again, stay strong as you do this virtual learning. Be that advocate, be that squeaky wheel, take on due diligence for the children. And lastly, before we go to BYOB and close out this portion of it, think about the generations that Sarah Briggins brought up. That's a conversation that I don't think we have a lot, even in education. I know when I started teaching back in 97, that whole crack epidemic was there. And I remember year after year, children would come through my classroom and I could see the students that were addicted and how they acted and how that progressed year after year. It seemed like it got worse and worse. But again, we know that's a pain point, but we can be a solution. So think about generations as you make decisions. Think about generations as you stand and advocate. Think about generations and be that generational curse breaker. How about we put generational blessings into the atmosphere? And the way we start acting and changing and shifting is what generations to come will do and be. So anything else, Sarah Lattimore, as we close and go to questions from our viewers?
No, I got kicked off for a little bit. I'm glad to be back on. But I do believe in everything that I've heard our president and my social action co-chair say. And the basic is own it. Some of it is ours. Own it and let's fix what we have. We can't keep pretending that everything got caused by the white man. As much as that's the easy thing to say, we can't do that. And even if it did, it's clear he not gonna fix it, or she. Karen not gonna fix it, and he not gonna fix it. So we got to own it and come up with our own solutions and start to do the work in our own communities, our own families, and our own neighborhoods. And I have to have that discussion within my very vast family. Every now and then I have to call Pookie and Ray Ray to the side and have a conversation. If that's not how we gonna act today. And you have to keep doing that repeatedly to get till we get the message across.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing, Sora President? At me.
Because you know she's doing it.
That's good. So we want to transition to what we call a very special part. And I thank each of you for speaking from your heart. You shared some personal things. You were very transparent. And I know that it touched my soul. So I know that everybody viewing that will view, they'll be touched as well. But we want to go to the place where we can have our audience to bring their voice. And it's called BYOV. Bring your own voice.
So okay.
We have some questions that have actually come in, and we're going to actually start working through those. So feel free, once the question is posed from the audience member, they'll put it up on the screen. So let's just work through these before we close out, if that's okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So first question, what do we have, Simone? All right. There's a lot of questions coming in here. Let me put one up here. Says, we hear local politics is everything. How do stakeholders get involved in local politics?
That's easy. I would say by volunteering. So I mean, you just have to engage. School board meetings. Although you're an educator, you can go to school board meetings. If you're talking about policies that impact you as a teacher, they're happening at the school board meeting. You should go to your county commission meetings. You should go to your city council meetings.
Absolutely.
Everyone's talking about, how do you get some help and some assistance? I saw on the tag, they said they were overwhelmed. Well, you can't do everything by yourself. Who are your stakeholders and folks outside of the education system, those elected officials, those community leaders that you all need to be saying, hey, this is a problem and an issue, so that you'll have someone that also will advocate on behalf of what you need for your classrooms. So I say volunteer, engage, talk, get involved, and put issues out in the atmosphere so we can get some solutions to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say, just do it. Just get out your comfort zone and do it. I mean, just going out there, get to know people, volunteer, serve on communities, all that good stuff.
Run for elected office.
There you go.
Don't be scared, because the other people aren't any better than you are. Understand
Absolutely
that.
Not.
We always think, this is us. We always think, oh, they've been doing this too long and I've been involved. That doesn't matter. If you feel it, go ahead and go for it.
Do it.
What can they do? You're either going to win or lose, regardless of what you do. They're either going to say, yes, we'd like you to be a part, or no, we're not. It's okay.
Yeah, that's really good. When you said just do it, come out of your comfort zone, I think that's big for so many people, because like you said, we don't know our own power. We don't know really who we are. And people look on and they like, oh, okay, but just do it. Press forward. If you've been called to it, get out there, and the people that need to support you will be right there to meet you.
They will show up.
You put one foot forward, and then everything else will happen.
The worst they can tell you is no, and it's not like you haven't heard no before.
That's right.
All right. Really good. Really good. Next question. What's our next question? We got that's a
big one.
Okay. So, which is needed? Reform or transformation? Scenario: Black lives do matter. However, there is a double standard when Black on Black crime continues and escalates. How do you reach and teach a generation that their life matters as they dodge bullets and books, in that they opt not to want to learn in the classroom, and parents, guardians have lost their authority in their own home? A teacher can spend an exhausting day calling parents to task. Please advise.
Whoa.
I do think it's, I hate to say this, I do think it's transformation. I don't know that it's reform. Reform does not tend to work. Reform works for a little while and then it wears off after that little glow has ended. We have, I guess I think that because what I do for a living is I do culture change. I go into organizations and I look at them and I try and figure out how to transform them, because that's the only thing that can last. And sometimes it means moving people around, or putting new resources in, or changing out leadership, or changing the way you teach someone. One of the things I found with my students that we had and the teachers we had when I was with the state of Georgia, the way you teach something matters. It matters. And sometimes teaching the same way you've taught it does not work. Sometimes you got to find out where that student's, those people's sweet spot is, and you teach them that. And that takes a little bit more than that takes instinct as well as education. Sometimes you can tell how you can change somebody or change the scenario. Use whatever tools you have. I know I had a really tough time getting teachers to teach using a cell phone, but that's what worked for the students that we had. And so, you know, my daughter taught my granddaughter to text when she was like 2 or 3 years old. And I said, why is this baby texting and having a phone? I just don't understand that. This is wrong. You know, she shouldn't be going to social media. She's learning how to spell, Mom. That's how we're teaching her to read. I said, oh, okay. So, you know, the methods you use have to be relevant to the situations they're in. You know, we had students we were trying to get, and I used to tell my teachers, they know grams, they know ounces. They know measure and how to measure things because they use them for drugs. So understanding, knowing these are not dumb people.
No,
they got skill, right. Or they could be doing what you're doing on the street. Okay, so you got to use the skills they have, understanding they have them, and find a way to teach to something that they understand, and then you can start teaching the other way. But that's transformational. That's not reform. Absolutely. So I honestly do believe it's transformation.
I agree with you, Soror Smith. I think it's transformational, but I also think it's spiritual. Although they took prayer out of the classroom, they didn't take prayer out of you.
There you go.
So you're going to have to go back in and do what our folks did for us. And that was get on your knees and go in the prayer closet and pray. We're dealing with generational curses. And what I've learned, and I've worked in so many facets as well, people just want to be loved. So when kids are acting out and not getting the love that they're getting at home, that they need at home, if they know you love them, they'll do what they need to do. Now, I know we have all of these other behavior things that are going on, but most of them are looking for some love, for somebody to just love them a little bit. And so I think we need to really start going back to the basics of how we dealt over the years just as a community.
That's hard for teachers. I'm saying this from a teacher standpoint. That love stuff that's tough for some of those kids.
I know. It is real hard to love them when they act.
It's real hard to love them. I know. So making sure they know that you care.
That's right.
It might be a little easier having been in that classroom setting. That's some of them I just want to say, you know, if you could leave my class, I'd be so happy, but you can't do that.
No, you can't. No, you can't. But that's what you're thinking.
That's what you're thinking. But you know what? If they know you're thinking it while you're loving on, then they get scared. So they say, oh, okay, I know she can't stand me, but she's still with me. So she's going to do something to me if I walk out of here. I mean, there's... Okay, let me stop.
Look, I think we have one more question. I'm not sure if there's more, and then we'll close this out. Do you all have any advice for educational leaders navigating these times where we are focused on health, safety, and even the social, emotional, and social justice components?
Whoa.
That's a biggie. You know, this is where I think we go back to what Soror Briggins says about you can't do it alone or it's overwhelming. That statement right there is overwhelming. And it is. You cannot do it all. Please do not expect that you can do it all. You almost have to look at in any education's environment, which one is the most critical at the time in terms of the situation you're in. And right now it may be social emotional, because you know when social emotional issues come up, they can't learn. That makes it very tough. But this is where I don't think there's any of those things that you can do alone. I do think educational leaders, and that's those leaders who are managing that environment, do have the responsibility, unfortunately, for doing all of those things. And it's a matter of trying to figure out a way when your team can do it. What are the things you have to focus on the most in terms of priority? Where do you need outside help from? and what in your community gives you that outside help so that education leaders can focus on those things. So it really is, this is one of these, it takes a village kind of questions to me.
Absolutely.
And you may have to get out of your comfort zone and reach for educational leaders. You can't be afraid to say you need help, or that you're scared, or that you really can't handle it on your own, because there is no one who can. If I thought that in Delta Sigma Theta, I'd be drowning right now, because Lord knows I can't do any of this by myself. You got to make sure you've got a good team that can take on a lot of those burdens for you. Don't try to do it all, because you will fail. And you will hurt yourself in the process. That's kind of my response to it.
I agree with everything that you're saying, Soror Smith. I think this is a time and an opportunity for you to expand your circle.
Yeah.
You know,
that's a good one.
You need to make sure you have different type of people beyond educators in your circle. And so who are the folks in law enforcement that you know? Who are folks in the court systems that you know? Where are the attorneys and the judges, the higher educational folks and that's doing the research and the studies of this stuff? These are, again, elected officials. You need to expand your circle. So when you only have your circle of educators and all of you are in that same bubble, that's why you feel a little overwhelmed, because you all are trying to do it together and need to go outside of yourselves for some help.
And bring some other people in.
Bring other people in. But you can only do that if you're being very intentional about expanding your personal reach, circle, and base of people in your lives. And we all need that.
Yeah. That's the beauty of DTEC-TAG. Right, Soror Cruse Craig?
Yes, ma'am. It is a definite
full circle. That's the whole point of doing things like this and what this program can do.
Yes, ma'am. So that's a great way for us to sort of close out, and this panel and the questioning and the BYOV is, you know, all of these particular nuggets of wisdom that were said. I hope that y'all wrote them down. As a matter of fact, I want you to put them in the chat real quick. Give me one thing that you can do when you leave here. What's one piece of action, education advocacy, that you can do? Something that you picked up here tonight from these esteemed panelists that shared their hearts. I think that share that with us as we get ready to close. We're going to bring back the He Live team, and we're going to get ready to close this out. This has been such an amazing. Wow, this is good. So He Live team, welcome back in. I want y'all to give us any insight really quick, any gratitude to our panelists before we close with special presentations. I'll throw it to Lavetta, and then y'all can go forth and we'll move on.
Thank you. Dr. Johni Cruse Craig, I have to thank you first for having vision and being obedient. I constantly tell you that you are so obedient to your vision and to your purpose, and you act on it. So I thank you for always acting on what you believe God has given you. And then you throw that at us. You want us to create something. So I thank you for the confidence that you've given us. And you just say, just go and make it happen. And somehow we do. So now I continue to work for DTEC. It doesn't matter. And I just love Sarah Lattimore. Oh my goodness. Come here, poking them. Oh my goodness. You continue to keep it real. But we can have a very professional conversation, but we have to still be intentional on our audience
all the time.
Connect with our community and our stakeholders. So thank you for always keeping it real. And Sarah National President, I mean, your life lessons, every time you share a life story, I'm always over here trying to write it down. I don't care where we are. I always have a story that is so appropriate, and it always sends a message to you. I want to thank you for being transparent and willing to do that. And our co-chair, Rhonda Briggins, she's all across the country, and we just line up right behind her. So it don't matter. We jumping off the cliff. That's okay.
Don't say that in front of her. Do not say that. Do not say that.
Yeah, I know. We just line up. So thank you, Sarah Briggins, for always leading us. You always tend to bring your experience, and that experience as being a lobbyist, that has been one of the most phenomenal things for Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, is because you've implemented and applied that. And we see you, Sarah, and we thank you for what you do. I'm so excited about the little key little nuggets that I found out behind backstage today. I can't say, but there's some upcoming stuff coming for Delta Sigma Theta. So I'm excited. But thank you, Rhonda Briggins, for digging in the trenches for us and making sure those things happen for us. So I'm excited. And thanks for all the He Live Summer Learning Series participants across the world. We had someone from Spain. We had someone in Italy, in Germany. Thank you so much for all tuning in with us. We know this is our last night tonight, but there are several more opportunities to follow DTEC and the He Live lessons in a continual fashion throughout the next 12 months. So real excited. Simone, tag, you're it.
Thank you so much. So again, I first got to say thank you to Dr. Johni, because initially I was like, why did you choose me? But I'm thankful. I was getting like emotional, but I'm thankful for the opportunity to learn and grow with you ladies. Like it's been amazing. And so to the president, to Miss Rhonda, I knew this was gonna be good when we did the run of the show and you were talking, and I told Mr. Vetta and Keisha, I said, Miss Pat is like an old grandma that you just love. And so I am so grateful. One thing, I took a couple things away from this tonight. One, do your senses. Two, bring your folding chair.
All right.
I love what you said, Miss Beverly, about sometimes when they overlook you, that's the opportunity for you to get in. And so, that really touched a place in me. And so thank y'all so much. Y'all are doing some amazing things. And of course, I'm not a part of the Delta sorority, but I'm so grateful to be a part of DTEC-TAG and to be a part of He Live. And so God bless you and all that you do.
Glad to have you.
Ms. Rhonda, I would definitely continue to keep praying for this generation and praying for education. Because that's what we definitely need. So I've been blessed. Thank y'all so very much. Keisha, tag, you're it.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with Sarah Lattimore. Sarah Lattimore.
Yes, ma'am.
This authenticity, what you bring, unmatched. Completely unmatched, and I appreciate you for that. Okay, I want to tell you that. Thank you, Sarah Briggins. Your voice commands that we pay attention, and with the words that come out of your mouth make us better people. So I want to tell you, thank you for that. Madam President, Sarah President. Oh my God. Okay, so I'm gonna
Here we go.
But when I pledged Delta Sigma Theta Sorority back in 1997, I would never have imagined a moment like this. This what Delta has afforded me to be and to grow in. So I want to tell you, thank you for your service. Thank you for your leadership. Of course, Dr. Johni Cruse Craig. Dr. Lord Jesus. Your obedience, your willingness to just say, let's go. Lavetta mentioned, we don't even know how it's going to happen. You're just like, do it. And we're like, okay. So, Dr. Johni, you are amazing. You're absolutely amazing. I don't even have the words to say. I thank God that he put you in our lives. I thank God for this opportunity. And so just thank you for who you are. Thank you for being the vessel that God is using to do this work. Thank you.
I thank each of you, and all I can say at this moment is to God be the glory. Right. I'm simply a willing and obedient, available vessel. And let me tell you, it hasn't been easy. And this vision was simply a vision. For those that don't know, when the pandemic hit, March the 9th, my husband had brain surgery. A couple days later, when we got him home from the hospital, I sit up on the side of the bed and I heard He Live. And I was like, what, Lord? Well, we had created this logo last year to go for a grant. Had no idea. And it would be a summer learning series and whatever else God has for it, because our president has already put a prophecy on it. So we're gonna grab that one. But honestly, this has been a joy for me. Education is my heart. I love Delta Sigma Theta. I love everyone here, and I appreciate you all giving me the opportunity to serve. And to Lattimore, she knows how I feel. She came and found me in Atlanta, and she gave me the opportunity of a lifetime. And I am so grateful that you have allowed me to grow and serve in the many gifts and talents that God bestowed upon me. So whenever my day does come and I have to slide in there, I want to, and I will be able to hear, well done, my good.
There you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
So thanks to everyone. And we have something for each panelist tonight. Simone, if you'd like to give this special presentation.
Oh, we get presents?
Yes, Miss Patricia Lattimore, we want to say on behalf of the He Live team, the Summer Learning Series, that we appreciate you so much, your wisdom, everything that you have shared tonight, for being a part and being a support. Miss Lavetta and Keisha, I'm not sure if y'all want to say anything to go along with this.
You said it.
So thank you so much, Miss Patricia. To Miss Beverly E. Smith, thank you so much. One thing I didn't say is that don't be scared. So I'm not going to be scared now. The things I want to do. So on behalf of the He Live team, the Summer Learning Series, we appreciate you so much. Thank you for your leadership and what you're doing in this great organization. And we really do appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to Miss Rhonda Briggins, we appreciate you so, so much. Thank you for being a part of this Summer Learning Series again. God bless the works of your hand. Continue to go out and be an advocate and a voice for change in the communities, and especially in our communities. Thank you so much. And then lastly, and I know she wasn't expecting one, but Dr. Johni Cruse Craig, we want to thank you again. We just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. There's not enough words that we can say tonight. But on behalf of me, Miss Lavetta, Keisha, and Isis, we appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Drop them tears, drop them tears, and let's move forward. I'm just kidding, y'all. I love y'all. Let's go ahead and close out this final show. You can remove us and do your winning people from the survey and tell people how to stay connected. One thing I'll say before you remove us from the stage is that He Live will continue through our state tag teams. What do I mean by that? In September, you already have activities coming up. You're going to have a He Live Teacher Symposium by our Texas PAX team, which is a whole week of stuff, pre-stuff, everything. They even have Dr. Freddie Haynes coming in on the last night to close out.
Okay.
Connect. It'll be right here on this same channel, kicking off on September 20th, going through that whole week. So make sure you tune in again to that. You'll see that advertised, as well as our DMV team. And I know, Lavetta, you were supposed to do this, but it's just natural.
Go ahead.
So our DMV team, they have an activity September 8th. They're having an all-in panel around education, and it's the DMV team is putting that on. So look forward to that. Connect with us at bit.ly/tag your it, or text join tag to 51555. And what that does is it simply connects you to our monthly newsletter. So we'll send out our monthly newsletter, you'll get it, and you'll see upcoming activities so that you'll know where to tune in, because we need you. This is a collective work. This is a collaborative work, and nationally we need you, but in our particular states, we need you. Yes. We need to be able to show up strong in these virtual places. We don't have to go out in person right now, but we can advocate virtually. Yes. We can still show up. We can still write, still have questions. So I just implore each of you to connect to this work. This is for our children.
Yes.
For our children, those generations that we talked about. So I'll be quiet. Lavetta, y'all can close us out. Thank you, everyone. I'm so overwhelmed and grateful.
Okay, real quickly, I'm gonna go. Let's go back to the Texas symposium real quick. September the 20th, we kick off with our pre-symposium, Texas Will, September the 20th, and then we go the 21st through the 24th. We have the statewide Board of Education member. We have Executive Director from the University of North Texas Education Trust with Lynn Jennings. Join us to hear from what's going on, not just in Texas, but across the nation. That's enough. Thank you. Now we also, let me have the case flyer. It's important that you understand and know what's going on as far as our African American education coalitions across the country. Our own DTEC Equity Warriors, Dr. Craig, Keisha Chandler, and Dr. Sharshinda Covington. Hey, Sharshinda will be representing at this conference on Saturday, September the 12th. So if you stay along with DTEC, it's posted in our information. It's on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel. You'll be able to get that information. Please register today. Get in there so you can see the continual work of how we can strengthen the equity education coalitions for African Americans across the country. And as Dr. Craig mentioned, there is the DMV will host on September the 8th, an all-in panel. Oh, yes, we cannot forget the PD series for educators. That's through the Congressional Black Caucus and our own Houstonite, Houston-owned Rochelle Broussard, who hails from Texas, will be presenting along with the one and only Keisha Chandler, and of course, our National Project Director, Dr. Johni Cruse Craig. And my other new best friend, Principal Baruta. Yes, it's going to be an amazing day. That's September the 1st is the kickoff, and then the actual session is September the 15th for the Adverse Childhood Experience session. So please make sure that you check our information. We're going to provide more in the comments so that you can register. Keisha's going to do our wheel. We're going to thank everybody, and then we're going to head out.
All right, y'all, it's time. One last spin of the wheel. So we want to thank all of our viewers and participants for filling out the survey and just communicating with us throughout this series. We're going to give this wheel 2 spins tonight. We have 2 winners, and so we're going to see who they are. Our first winner is Sarah Bettina Powell. Yes. Congratulations. And our final He Live Summer Learning Series winner is, we got to do it again. It's us. One more time. Let's give this wheel one more spin. Here we go. Our final He Live Summer Learning winning series winner is Jennifer. Congratulations. All right, we're getting ready to close out.
We're getting ready to close. So again, we're saying good night from the Summer Learning Series, but you can follow us with all of our state work. He Live continues. It does not end. We don't stop.
No.
We just keep multiplying.
Right.
Good night. Thank y'all for joining us. Good night.
Good night.
We gotta fight against them, but we need numbers. We need to show up at school board meetings. We need to show up at county commissioner meetings. We need to have someone on the agenda to talk and know what they're talking about to advocate.
So that's the whole goal, just to be better, to come with the new knowledge, come with the new awareness.